Well, I welcome you to the 700 Club. Thanks for being with us. The nuclear option. Are Senate Democrats ready to run with it? That includes getting rid of what's called the filibuster, so that merely by a majority they can pass whatever legislation they want. Now, how would this radical action open the floodgates for the Democrats to pass their liberal agendas? And what, if anything, can Republicans do to stop it? Here's our Capitol Hill correspondent, Abigail Robertson.
Republicans are predicting dire consequences if Democrats remove the filibuster and permanently change Senate rules, allowing legislation to pass with a simple majority.
When they talk about transforming the country, they'll be able to.
Republican Senator Rand Paul tells CBN News he didn't support former President Trump's calls to remove the filibuster when the GOP held the Senate majority, and he certainly doesn't support it now.
I'm very concerned because basically the future of our country depends on two Democrats right now not overturning the filibuster.
Those two Democrats, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin.
I am not willing to take away the involvement of the minority.
Senator Manchin confirmed he's not ready to end bipartisanship.
Can you imagine not having to sit down, or there's no reason for you to sit down with your colleagues on both sides and have their input? The Senate is the most unique body of government in the world, of governing body in the world. It's deliberate.
The number 2 Senate Democrat, Dick Durbin, argues Republicans abuse the filibuster, and it's time to end its power.
When Senator McConnell and others come to the floor and plead for us to hang on to the traditions of the Senate, I would tell you that their interpretation of the traditions is strangling this body.
But during Donald Trump's presidency, he argued this.
What about that nuclear option doing away with the filibuster?
Well, I can tell you that would be the end of the Senate as it was originally devised and created going back to our founding fathers.
President Biden suggested this week the Senate should go back to the talking filibuster.
I don't think you have to eliminate the filibuster. You have to do it what it used to be when I first got to the Senate, and that is that a filibuster, you had to stand up and command the floor. Once you stopped talking, you lost that, and someone could move in and say, I moved the question of. So you got to work for the filibuster.
Minority Leader Mitch McConnell warns killing the filibuster would break the Senate.
Even though the American people sent a 50-50 Senate and a narrowly divided House, I don't think they were sending a message that there was a mandate to completely transform the country in every way liberals want to do that.
Vowing if it goes away, Republicans will use every rule and option at their disposal to stall legislation.
They're prepared to steamroll the Senate into a majoritarian body, just like the House, because it inconveniently gets in the way of all they want to do, to run up the debt, to raise taxes, and you've seen the disaster at the border.
Under current rules, Senate Democrats don't have the votes to pass the House-approved Equality Act or the For the People voting reform bill. If the filibuster goes away, those bills and more, such as D.C. statehood, could become law. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Now remember, so many of the appointments of a president have to be with the advice and consent of the Senate. So the Senate's got to approve them, and that means there has to be a vote. Now, if that filibuster's done away with, when Harry Reid did the nuclear option, he did it just for judges. And using that, when the Republicans got control, they just put judge after judge after judge in with a simple majority vote. But here are just some of the laws we can expect to pass if the filibuster is changed. The Election Reform Bill, the Equality Act, statehood for D.C. with 2 more senators, statehood for Puerto Rico with 2 more senators, a Green New Deal, gun control, and more. And there's something else, by the way, folks, that it was called the Fairness Doctrine. Now, the Fairness Doctrine, when it was in place, said that if you put on a conservative, you had to have a liberal in balance. Now, the FCC changed that, but if other FCC commissioners are moved through the Senate and they abolish the Fairness Doctrine, it'll cut all these conservative talk shows off the radio. That would have killed Rush Limbaugh and others like him. Now, that's what's in the offing. Now, it's a very serious matter, folks. And this Equality Act means, look, you will be able to register everybody to vote. You will have ballot harvesting. You can send out limitless ballots without respect for the fact they're not asking for them. They're just going to be flooding the mail. And the opportunity for fraud will be overwhelming. And the Democrats feel that with the immigrants coming in, that they'll mostly vote Democrat. So what are they going to do with them? They will try as they can to register as many illegal aliens. For example, in Virginia, where they've got so many liberals running the show, they've just started a thing that's going to give prisoners the vote. I mean, people who are released from prison, regardless of what their sentence or anything about them, if they're on parole or have been released, they will be able to vote. They couldn't even vote before. Well, that's what's in the offing, folks. And it will be a one-party state, a takeover, and it will be impossible for the Republicans ever to gain power again. It'll be decades down the road. It depends on two senators right now, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. Two senators will make the difference. And if they switch, the floodgates are open. Well, in other news, Bibi, yes or no? That's what really the Israeli election boils down to. Dozens of political parties are competing for control. The big question, can any of the contenders form a coalition? John Jessup has that.
That is right, Pat. This fourth election in less than 2 years' time comes as Israelis are weary of COVID lockdowns and a battered economy. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell explains how, as Election Day draws closer, the picture is anything but clear.
In the latest surveys, the top contenders are Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party and Yair Lapid's Yesh Atid.
You have to put someone in charge to revive the Israeli economy. Who are you going to do it? Somebody who's already done it successfully and brought Israel's economy to the best results in our history, or someone like Yair Lapid.
I think it's time for a generational shift in Israel. I think, as I was saying, I'm ready. The party's ready. We have the right plans. We have the right abilities. We have the right experience by now.
For this voting population that's weary of lockdowns, a battered economy, and too many elections, result projections are unclear. According to this poll from Israeli public broadcaster Kan, Likud remains in the lead with 30 seats. Yesh Atid is next with 21, followed by Yamina with 12 and New Hope 11. 7 more parties would likely enter the Knesset with fewer seats, including Defense Minister Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party. Others won't make the threshold.
No one can really forecast what will be the outcome.
In Israel's parliamentary system, citizens vote for a party, not the prime minister. There are 120 seats in the Knesset, and the leader whose party wins the most seats or who is most likely to succeed gets the job of building a coalition. Former Netanyahu advisor Aviv Bushinsky says there are really only 2 camps.
We can define these elections that it's a yes Bibi or no Bibi. Yes for Netanyahu or no for Netanyahu.
And while some 70% of the Knesset is right-wing, many on the right oppose him.
Great number of people who despise Netanyahu, don't like Netanyahu for other reasons, because Netanyahu is here for many, many years. Some say too many years, and without even mentioning the fact that he is being tried for corruption.
At Jerusalem's open-air market, the division was clear.
I'm a Likud man. I've known Bibi since he was the United Nations ambassador when I was living in New York, and I remain Likud.
The religious are really ruined by this subject. Until now, I always chose Bibi, all the years, simply. This time, I definitely won't vote for him.
We have a great prime minister. I believe it's time to change.
According to Bushinsky, more than 40% of those who intend to vote are undecided. And if there's no clear direction, Israelis could find themselves heading to a 5th election again this year or next. Pat?
Chris, you know, the thing that's looming in front of all of us is the Iranians, their nuclear ambitions. I mean, Can Israel function without a parliamentary majority and a clear prime minister? I mean, what are they doing? I thought they were making plans to have a preemptive strike against some of those nuclear facilities.
Well, Pat, yes, they've been limping along politically for the last 2 years, but militarily, I think Israel is prepared to do anything it needs to do to protect themselves from an Iranian nuclear program. So I think that's regardless of who, even if they go to a fifth election, I think across the board in Israeli political landscape, everybody is against Iran, and everybody is prepared to do whatever they can or need to do to confront a nuclear Iran. So, Pat, I think that's politically, they may be limping along, they may be in gridlock, but militarily, I think they're preparing, they're planning. We were up on the northern border a couple of weeks ago. They're ready for any attack against Hezbollah. They have operational plans, I'm sure, for many years. They know what they need to do to stop Iran. If they need to take that step, I think they'll take it, regardless of the political landscape, as fractured as it is right now.
All right. I know it's tough to call an election, but how do you feel about it? Is Netanyahu going to pull it off?
It's a great question, Pat. You know, certainly he's leading in the polls right now. He's got 30 mandates, according to the latest poll. But the question is, will he be able to get a coalition together right now? There's a couple of factors against him. First of all, you have three parties on the right that are, and two of those three parties say they're not going to serve with a Netanyahu government. So regardless if he's the leading contender, if he gets the most seats, the question is, will he be able to form a coalition? Now, key to that is a man named Naftali Bennett. We did a profile on him last week, whether or not he's going to join a possible coalition. You know, earlier today, Pat, I spoke with an Israeli friend, and I said, well, have you decided who you're going to vote for? And he said, well, I don't know. And I says, well, Pat, I said to Idan, how are you going to vote? And when are you going to decide? He says, I think I'm going to decide when I get into the voting booth. And I think 40% of Israelis have that same sentiment, either the day before or the day of. So it's really hard to predict exactly which way this is going to go. And, you know, I think it's really like a chessboard exactly how the numbers are going to play out. And Pat, I think even John Waggy, our political analyst, would have a hard time predicting this one.
Well, thanks, Chris. We'll keep our eyes open. Appreciate it, brother. John, what's next?
Well, Pat, severe thunderstorms heading for the southeast today, bringing potential tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail. The same storm system spawned nearly 24 twisters Wednesday, damaging several homes and buildings in Mississippi and Alabama, and forcing dozens of University of Alabama students to seek shelter in a parking garage. South of the university, Greater Faith and Victory Worship Center took its second hit in 10 years, partially damaging the church's roof. The facility was rebuilt after a tornado struck back in 2011.
I just think that he has something greater.
Absolutely.
It's nothing about, I mean, things like this are going to happen, and it's just how we respond to it. We just believe that God's going to do something greater.
The storm system heads to the Carolinas today, and forecasters expect it to bring torrential rainfall, wind gusts of up to 70 miles an hour, with threats of hail and, Pat, unfortunately to say, more tornadoes.
Well, you know, where we are is foggy. It's kind of warm. Then they say there's some part of this area where they might, not only will they have heavy rain, they might have some snow. So
that's tomorrow. But I think we're also potentially up for some of that tornado activity and wind, high wind.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an incredible storm. We're not quite sure it is, but that's part of life. We have changing weather, torture, rape, forced sterilization, and slave labor in concentration camps. The Chinese government is inflicting incredible atrocities on millions of their own people. China's president and other top officials are now facing charges of genocide. So who are the victims, and why are they being persecuted? George Thomas explains.
The authors of a new report say they have proof that Beijing is intent on destroying China's Muslim Uyghur population as part of a broader campaign to unify the country under one ethnic identity.
The evidence is overwhelming that China is clearly in breach of the 1948 Genocide Convention.
That evidence included public and leaked Chinese state documents, testimony from more than 10,000 eyewitnesses, and satellite images. The overall conclusion, it all points to President Xi Jinping's brutal goal to meld the country's 55 ethnic minorities, including Uyghurs, into China's Han culture. Han Chinese account for more than 90% of the population.
He himself is less of a communist and more of a Han nationalist. He is in the process of signification of the entire country. And it's not just the Uyghurs that are Muslims, they are the most prominent ones, but there's actually other minorities too. There's Kazakhs, there's Uzbeks, etc. And even actually Christian minorities, they have a process of bulldozing down churches.
7 years after President Xi told authorities to show absolutely no mercy to the Uyghurs, as many as 2 million of them are now locked up in concentration camps spread across China's Xinjiang province. There, they endure torture, rape, forced sterilization, slave labor, and are stripped of their Muslim faith and told to embrace communist ideology.
The Chinese Communist propagandists call this re-education camps or vocational training centers. They must think we're idiots.
Some 500,000 Uyghur children have been removed from their parents, placed in state-run orphanages, and brainwashed.
Forced labor and centralized care of children serve to effectively inhibit the intergenerational transmission of culture, religion, and language by reducing joint family times and instead drastically increasing parents' and children's exposure to secular government teaching and training.
The government is reportedly sending Han Chinese men to sleep with Muslim Uyghur women while their husbands are in prison or shipped against their will to far-off towns and cities, all in an effort to promote ethnic unity.
Han Chinese are actually being moved from other parts of China into Xinjiang, and they're encouraged to, in many cases, forcibly marry Uyghur women to essentially dilute their identity through their offspring. So this is a very calculated and thought-out process from the state apparatus in China.
China has repeatedly denied its ethnic policies amount to genocide.
The claim that there is genocide in Xinjiang could not be more preposterous. It's just a rumor fabricated with ulterior motives and a thorough lie.
Meanwhile, dozens of U.S. companies like Nike, Coca-Cola, Adidas, Tommy Hilfiger, and others are facing renewed pressure to stop using Uyghur workers to produce their goods in Xinjiang province factories. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom accused these companies of complicity, fueling Uyghur persecution.
If corporate America won't take action, consumers need to and stop doing business with companies like Nike and Coca-Cola and others who benefit from forced labor in China.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken will meet top Chinese officials in Alaska today. He's expected to bring up Beijing's actions in Xinjiang.
If China claims that there is nothing going on, that it give access to the international community, to the United Nations. If they have nothing to hide, show it to us, show the world.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Shocking, isn't it? That Xi Jinping looks like sort of a benign person, but he's become one of the worst dictators in the history of the world. He is just a monster. And not only is he coming against the Uyghurs, he's coming against the Christians, tearing down churches and breaking up house meetings. And, you know, they were fast on the way to becoming the largest Christian nation on the face of the earth. And then it all changed with him. And it's amazing because China had great possibility, and I believe the Chinese people, because I've been there so often and spoken with them so often, and their hunger for God was just overwhelming. And to see this being crushed by this one wicked man, and he is a horrible person. And if you want to pray for God's judgment to fall on somebody, I think you ought to pray about the Lord dealing with Xi Jinping.
Touched by an Angel. That TV series made Roma Downey a household name. Since then, Roma has gone on to star in numerous shows and to become a celebrated producer. Her latest project, a powerful new movie called Resurrection. Here's a sneak peek.
What is truth?
You'll live to regret your hand in his death.
Jesus has risen. You will preach the gospel to all creation.
The kingdom of God is coming, and we will be fit to enter!
Resurrection. The global premiere will launch on Discovery Plus, March 27th.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club, Roma Downey. Roma, great to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning. It's lovely to be with you.
The movie looks powerful. What is the premise of Resurrection?
Gosh, it's so exciting that it's going to be on this Easter time after the terrible year that we've all come through. The movie opens up at the crucifixion of Jesus. And then we wanted to tell the story from the point of view of the disciples. They scattered when he was murdered. They're heartbroken. They're afraid. And that few days, they wait to see, will he come back or not? And the time in Jerusalem, there's so much going on. You know, the drama plays out really like a triangle, because we have the oppression of the Romans, and they were ruling with an iron fist. We have the temple authorities led by Caiaphas, and they're very anxious about Passover and keeping peace in the city, which is why they tried to kill Jesus off so quickly. And then we have the disciples who have just lost their beloved teacher, their leader, their Lord, and they're unsure what to do next. And so this is the setting for the telling of this a very dramatic film, but very heartfelt film. And we're just so grateful to Discovery Plus that we have a platform to share it with American audiences just in time for the Easter season.
You know, so many films have been done on the life of Christ and the crucifixion. Why did you choose to focus on the events immediately after Jesus' crucifixion?
Well, you know, we ourselves made a film a few years ago called Son of God. And it really dealt with Jesus' mission, his ministry, took us in through his arrest and trial and the passion of Jesus. So we had already done that. We've seen that. Obviously, Mel Gibson did it with the Passion. And we just felt that this moment, our movie really takes us through the gospel and into the book of Acts. And we thought we haven't really seen that film yet. And I think that the way the disciples are presented here, there's such a humanity in them that we, the audience, are able to relate to them. We're able to identify, you know, with the variety of emotions that they're going through. And we will see that fear and that grief turn to joy and elation when on the third day, as promised, Jesus does rise again. In the film, we see Joseph of Arimathea come and offer to Jesus' mother and John the Beloved at the cross. He offers his tomb out of decency to give, to have a place where Jesus could be buried. But when Caiaphas hears of this, he's very upset because everybody knows about the prophecy of Isaiah, and that he would be laid in a rich man's tomb. And so they're convinced maybe the disciples are going to try to steal the body of Jesus and then pretend that he has risen. So they go and they ask the Romans to put Roman soldiers at the tomb and to put the seal on the rock at the tomb to ensure that nobody could steal the body. Well, we know that nobody came to steal the body, that Jesus did rise. He was who he said he was, and he did rise. And in this amazing scene, we see the heavens move supernaturally. We see this beautiful, strong, and amazing angel come down and larger than life land on the tomb. And the Roman soldiers are, of course, you know, in shock. They don't even believe what they're seeing. And then we see the part that always makes me have goosebumps. We see the light emanating from behind the stone because he has risen and the world will never be the same again.
Roma, why was Discovery Plus the best outlet for this movie?
You know, obviously because of the pandemic, it became clear to us around Christmas time that we weren't going to be able to show this film in theatres as we had originally planned. It's a beautiful, big, epic drama, and we thought it would have worked well on the big screen. But because of the pandemic, obviously theatres aren't open, it's not safe to gather in large groups, etc. So we looked around to see what platform we might be able to stream the film on. And we talked to a lot of the streamers, but we were so grateful that Discovery Plus boldly stepped up and said that they would love to have the film over Easter. And we were grateful of their partnership in particular because they're a very family-friendly platform. And so we thought if we were inviting our audiences in to watch Resurrection, that we wanted them to come into a place where they knew there would be value for money, first of all, because there's lots of other things for them to see that their family would enjoy, and that it would be a place they could trust, you know, to bring your kids in, because some of these streamers, quite honestly, have a lot of things going on there that maybe aren't appropriate for families. So we were really grateful. And I know that if this film does well, like if a lot of people will come and see it, they have told us that they will create the space to have even more faith content. And, you know, it's harder and harder to find places that will take faith content. So we're really hoping that the Christian audience will mobilize and come and check out the movie. It's a beautiful movie. It's the cornerstone of our faith. And the movie is made excellently. You know, it takes a village to make a movie. We got the best team. We've got great actors. We got great directors, writers. We worked with consultants to make sure we were biblically accurate. And the movie, I think, is uplifting and empowering. And we really hope that the audience will step up and come in so we can continue to produce Christian content of quality.
Well, Roma, I hope so too. You know, people in the faith community are saying, what can we do in the day that we live in? This is one of the things we can do. Make your voice heard by choosing to watch Resurrection, March 27th on Discovery Plus. It's a great way to enrich your faith this Easter season. Share with your family. That's Resurrection, March the 27th on Discovery Plus. Roma, wonderful to have you with us. We are grateful. Thank you for all you do.
Welcome back to Washington for the CBN News Break. The suspect in the shooting spree at the 3 Atlanta area massage parlors is charged with 8 counts of murder. The victims include 6 Asian women. Police say 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long confessed to the crimes, reportedly telling officials he struggles with sex addiction and wanted to eliminate temptation. He also claims race did not play a role in the attacks, although police have not ruled it out as a motive. The shootings highlight a sharp increase in attacks against Asian Americans since the COVID-19 pandemic began 1 year ago. Well, the IRS is extending the tax deadline this year, bumping it 1 month to May 17th, giving people more time to prepare. IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig, noting that it's been a tough year for many Americans, said in a statement, the IRS wants to continue to do everything possible to help taxpayers navigate the unusual circumstances related to the pandemic. However, the delay does not apply to estimated tax payments, which are still due by April 15th. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.
One phone call. That's what nearly destroyed Dan Gable when he was just 19 years old. Instead, Dan pushed through the pain to achieve greatness. What dreadful news was delivered on that phone call? And how did Dan draw on his faith to develop the heart of a champion? Just watch.
One of the greatest wrestlers of all time, Dan Gable has forged a legacy of success for more than half a century. A champion as an athlete and a coach, his achievements include numerous national and international titles, including Olympic gold. Dan has pushed through setbacks and brought others along in his rise to success.
I feel like every day I need to make accomplishments in my life. Every day I need to help people that are associated with me or my sport or my profession or my family. I always look forward to something all the time.
Dan grew up in Waterloo, Iowa. Early on, it was clear he was a gifted athlete who loved to compete and win. By junior high, he'd picked up wrestling, among other sports. He often came out on top, always making his parents proud.
My dad was at wrestling practice, at football games practice. I don't mean just the games, but I mean, my dad came to every practice. I didn't really know other people didn't have that stuff.
As proud as his parents were, they made sure he and his sister knew that the most important things in life are family and faith in Jesus Christ.
I don't ever remember not having a strong faith. And what that does for you is it gives you hope, it gives you more discipline.
As a sophomore in high school, Dan's faith would be bolstered when he heard Bob Richards, famed Olympic gold medalist and minister, speak at his school. Later, he started reading Reverend Richards' book, Heart of a Champion.
It said, it may sound strange, but many champions are made champions by setbacks. He says they are champions because they've been hurt.
Dan had no idea the hurt that would push him to greatness was weeks away. Dan and his parents were away for the weekend. His dad, standing in a phone booth, had just gotten news that Dan's 19-year-old sister, Diane, was brutally raped and murdered in the family's home.
My dad lets go of the phone and it dangles. He looked over to my mom and he just said, she's not alive.
Determined not to let his sister's loss define him, Dan turned to his faith, again inspired by Reverend Richards' book.
And when I went back to this book, it wasn't just about, performance in athletics. It was all about faith, and it's whoa, this is helping me. This is really helping me. Sometimes in life, God gives us a difficulty in order to bring out the fighting spirit.
And fight Dan would. After that, wrestling became more than a sport. It was an escape from his pain and a rallying point for his family. He won the state championship that year. Even then, he kept pushing himself.
Our high school team is playing basketball in the state finals. All of a sudden, about halfway through the basketball game, I looked at the guys and said, guys, I'm going to go down. I need a workout. And they looked at me like, whoa, you just won the state championship a week ago. Can't you take time off a little bit? And I said, I'm getting ready for next year.
Dan would go on to a 7-year winning streak that included 181 wins, 0 losses, 3 high school state championships, and 3 NCAA titles wrestling for Iowa State. His streak came to an end his senior year in the final meet for the NCAA championship and his college career, when he lost to Larry Owings.
You fall into this sense of well-being, and you're not quite as hungry, you're more confident, you're overconfident.
Munich, 1972.
Dan would take that lesson with him into the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich. He won all 6 of his matches without surrendering a single point, winning the gold for his country. At the medal ceremony,
all of a sudden my head filled full of dreams, filled full of my past, and my sister just jumped right in there. She was right there, and it was like, whoa, there she is. And I don't really remember the anthem because of that. I was more focused on her and her smile, I guess. So that was big.
After his Olympic win, Dan poured his energy and passion into others as head coach at the University of Iowa, where he led the Hawkeyes to 15 NCAA titles. He also got the nod as head coach in 3 Olympics, helping his wrestlers to win 13 medals, including 8 gold. By his retirement at age 49 in 1997, he'd become one of the most respected and beloved figures in the wrestling world, for teaching athletes not just how to win, but how to live.
Anybody in the world that really has the ability to give something to somebody, which everybody does, don't wait around. Get out there, utilize your talents, and help other people to be good.
Dan still plays a prominent role in the world of wrestling. He's also written 3 books and played himself in the 2020 feature film, The Last Champion.
Danny Mac Gable is one of the greatest collegiate athletes and coaches of the 20th century.
Then later that year in December, Dan joined a distinguished list of Americans as a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, awarded to Americans who've made outstanding contributions to society and culture.
The success one has with others is more important than the success you have as yourself.
Dan's encouragement to others is to make the best use of the time and talents God has given them, no matter what life throws at them.
It starts with faith, and it never ends with faith. The more you can be successful in every great area of your life, the more likely you're going to be successful in everything.
What an amazing person. Folks, we've got something called faith. God's power in your life, and you can get a free copy of it. You want to download to cbn.com, or you can get a copy 1-800-700-7000. But this is pretty important. I mean, you know, not just I've accepted the Lord, but what do you do then? God, you know, Jesus told the people, you know, all things are possible to him that believes. So I think he wants us to believe that. But we'll send this to you. Dan Gable is just one, but my, what a champion he was. Is, I guess. He still is a champion. All right, Terry.
5 seconds. That's all it took for an earthquake to destroy Anita's house in Peru. Now, this widow and her 4 children were homeless. The family had no money to rebuild, but as it turned out, they didn't need any. Take a look.
It was early on a Sunday morning when an 8-point earthquake struck the nation of Peru. Anita and her children had been asleep.
Before he died, my husband and I built a house for the children to live in.
In just 5 seconds, Anita, who was already a widow, was left homeless with 4 children. This was all that was left.
I lost my bed and my quilt.
The family sought shelter with relatives. There was no money to rebuild. Then Operation Blessing heard about Anita's situation. Within a few days, we delivered new building materials and metal sheets for a roof. Then we hired construction workers from the community and built Anita and the children a brand new house. We also provided new beds and furniture. And as you can see, Dedication Day was filled with emotion.
I want to thank God, and I am so grateful for everything you did for me. We are so happy.
That situation would be devastating for any family, but for a widow with 4 children, what was she to do? And then 700 Club members, you came in and made all the difference, and we want to say thank you. That's the kind of work you're doing around the world, and you do it every single day. 65 cents a day, $20 a month makes you a 700 Club member. So to those of you who haven't yet joined, it's such a simple process, but you can make such an incredible difference. Our number's toll free. You just call 1-800-700-7000. Say, I want to join the 700 Club. We gladly welcome you to the family of ministries here because we're doing many, many things all around the world, and we need people like you to stand with us. So call now. Just say you want to participate. When you do, our way of saying thank you is to send you Pat's latest book, I've Walked with the Living God. I want to say we have a wonderful endorsement here from Larry, Pat, who says, I've Walked with the Living God is an inspiring memoir. God has blessed you with the abilities to start Christian businesses, numerous ministries, influence public opinion, and a university, all done with the blessings of God for his glory. What an example for every American citizen to follow. I'm looking forward to reading your sequel at age 120. Wow, okay. Hope you're keeping a journal.
Yeah, I have 3 90s, and now I'm going for the 430, 3 30s to 90, and then
one more to the 120.
120. That's okay. What do we got?
We want you to have his book, so call us now. Time for some questions. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
This is Andy, who says, Pat, I'm 15 and very interested in the stock market and investing. How can I possibly get started? Any advice for a young guy like me?
All right. First of all, I think what you need to do is to learn a little something about what it's all about. What is a PE? What is a price earnings? What is a price to sales? What are the basis on which you invest? You look at all those things that are there. There are a lot of little teeny booklets and others you can read. then there are people like Fidelity that have a wonderful program. They have some terrific stock, and you can get some of their stock plans. You know, they have them put together in various forms. But you could also make sure you get the literature and open an account. Open your own account in a brokerage firm where you can buy and sell securities, and then get your foot wet. You can. Schwab is selling fractional shares. I'm not too much in favor of that, but if you can find some fairly low-cost stocks to start, I mean, you can get a few of them, but you might look at how many are yielding dividends. There's a letter called High Yield Investing that'll tell you about those that are paying good dividends. What are the stability of these stocks. I mean, you have to, do a little reading.
Homework. Mm-hmm.
And but definitely, I mean, get in there and learn what it's about. And remember, the stock market fluctuates, so you have to learn. You know when to hold them, you know when to fold them. There's nothing short of experience, but it's fun to do, and I've done a lot of it. So okay.
Good advice. This is Phyllis, who says, I've seen many believers slain in the spirit. A speaker or pastor lays hands on the person and prays, and the individual falls to the ground as if unconscious. I cannot find this in Scripture anywhere. Is this a work of God?
Well, the answer is yes, but the Bible says when they came to get Jesus to take him, they said, we've come to take you. And they said, who is Jesus? And he stood up and he said, I am he. And the Bible said they fell to the ground. Daniel says, when an angel appeared before him, he had no strength and he swooned. So in the presence of eternity and in the presence of an angel, there are a number of references in the Bible where the power of God is so strong that people can't stand up. But that's a couple of them. All right.
This is Michelle, who says, hi, Pat. Habakkuk 2:2 talks about writing the vision and making it plain on tablets that he who reads it may run. I know that God also sends dreams for various reasons. What is the difference between a dream and a vision?
Well, a dream, you're asleep, and a vision, normally it's kind of like a waking sight. I don't know. Is that the end of that question?
That's the end of it. She just wants to know the difference between a dream and a vision.
Okay. Well, but you asked for Habakkuk said the vision is yet, write the vision so he that reads it may run. That's for Habakkuk to write his prophecy, and I don't know that what God is speaking to you necessarily fits into that category, all right?
This is Betty, who says, Pat, I read the Bible, and I'm wondering why people live to be as old as they did. Why has that changed, and people don't live as long now?
If you read that after the flood, God said the time of man's life will be 120. Well, it wasn't like I'm going to raise it from 80 to 120. You're looking at people who are living 5, 6, 7, 8, 900 years. And after the flood, I don't know whether there was a lot of moisture in the air, whether mold was present, or whether it had something to do. But Noah was like 600 years old when he built the ark. So I think what we're looking at is an increase. Not an increase, but it's a decrease from 600, 700, 800, 900 years. People now live 120. That's the max. The Psalms talk about, 80. All right.
This is Alan, who says, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I've chosen not to take surgery or the nuclear implants offered by my doctor. I have faith and have chosen to do nothing but place it in the will of God. Your thoughts on my decision?
Look, you're looking at somebody who had prostate cancer, and my thought was cut it out as fast as you can. Yeah. I mean, you lose something, but my brother died. The thing spread. He did some of that implant and it didn't work, and it spread up into his lungs and it got to his brain and it killed him. So don't play around with these things. If you've got breast cancer or prostate cancer, deal with it right away. I mean, I think, you know, if you lose something, but there's something called the neurovascular bundle, and if you can possibly keep that, you want to do it. Otherwise, you've got a heap of problems along the way that I won't go into right now. But in any event, don't play with it. I mean, you say, well, I'm going to trust God, and then the next thing you know, you die. Well, today's Power Minute is from the book of Matthew. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. Well, tomorrow, a gambler attempts suicide 3 times on Easter Sunday. There's a miracle. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.